Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the next in our fabulous concert programs, our first series featuring the symphonies of Carl Nielsen. And we're up to Symphony No. 5. And Symphony No. 5, as some of you may know, is really arguably anyway, his greatest symphony, certainly one of the greatest works of its kind. It's completely original, totally organic, in two big movements, and oh my God, it's glorious. And nobody plays it. I actually saw Osmo Vanska conduct it with the New York Philharmonic, and he did a terrific job with it. He really did. An absolutely first-class performance. And I was very, very excited about that. I mean, I saw actually the Nielsen Cycle that they recorded under Alan Gilbert as well. So there was that one too. So they've done it a few times. It does get performed once in a while, not as much as the fourth, because the fourth has a title, The Inextinguishable. And this one does not. But it is an unbelievably extraordinary and rewarding and powerful, oh, so powerful and gripping and expressively direct piece of music. So it's a second half piece. It's a climax of the concert. You can't do anything after the fifth. It has to be the end of the concert. It just does, which means you have to make sure people are not going to run away after the first half. Although some of you, said that, people will walk out in the middle, and you've seen it happen. And I have seen concerts where people did evacuate. But the concert that I saw them evacuate was the following. It was Penderecki doing De Natura Sonoris No. 2, which I happen to love, but which does kind of scare people off. Then his own viola concerto by Penderecki, and he was conducting, by the way, which is as grim a piece of music as you've ever heard, and it's really kind of gray and horrible. And then after the intermission, Shostakovich's 14th Symphony, which is 11 poems about death for a tiny, tiny group of strings and percussion and two soloists. It was not a concert designed to keep the audience riveted to their seats. And it happened during a blizzard where everyone was telling everyone to evacuate and get home as quickly as possible. So at that concert, there were like 5 people left at the end, but I was one of them because I love the Shostakovich and I stayed for it. So there. But normally, under normal circumstances, people pay their money, they go, and they sit. That is what they do. And as long as the thing that's going on is not absolutely offensive, they're going to sit. Chances are they'll give a standing ovation. They don't care. They go out. They have a nice time. I mean, what's not to stay for? I think that we who take this subject rather seriously and feel very passionately about it are far, far too into our own selfish opinions and tastes to really understand that the vast majority of the concert-going public is just out for a lovely evening at the symphony. They go out to dinner, they show up at the concert, they get their money's worth, they have a great time, and they go home. And that's absolutely fine. They're not going to say, oh my God, they're doing something by this person. I've never heard of him. Let's leave. I don't know anybody who does that. I really don't. Now, the program may determine whether people actually buy the ticket and go, although most of this is sold by subscription anyway, so there's always a couple things you don't know what they are, but you go anyway. That's a possibility. But what I'm really concerned with in doing these programs is not so much audience retention as it is audience reward, as it is designing really good, satisfying programs that anybody who hears them will come away feeling that they've really had a terrific evening, assuming the performances are great. That just was worth it. And I want to make it worth it for them because there's so much crappy programming. And they're going to go and they're going to have a good time and they're going to clap and probably give everyone a standing ovation anyway. But there's still a difference. There's still a difference between a program that is complete and wonderful and that leaves you with a smile on your face and one which you appreciate as an evening at the symphony. And I want these to be things that are going to be memorable. So for Nielsen Symphony No. 5, you can see right below what I did. I have a Mozart, Beethoven, and Nielsen program. The Mozart is there for a couple of reasons because, everyone says you have to do like an overture, a concerto, and then after the intermission, a symphony. Well, no, you don't. I wanted 2 overtures. I'm introducing both halves with the Mozart overture. because they're short, they're 5 minutes long, and they're wonderful. And having two of them, I mean, what's the harm? Why not do a couple of them? And they're great. Two of the great Da Ponte opera overtures, Cosi fan tutte to start, and The Marriage of Figaro to start the second half. I just love the symmetry of it, and I think it would be beautiful. And who wouldn't like it? Who wouldn't see it and go, oh, good, we get two Mozart overtures. Okay, then after Cosi fan tutte, Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto, which is his most Mozartian concerto for sure, and a glorious work, but there's another reason for it, which we'll get to in a moment. And then second half, the Overture to the Marriage of Figaro, and then Nielsen Symphony No. 5. Now, what are all of the possible sneaky, subconscious auditory links that I've stuck in here? That subconscious, it's like the advertising, where they're showing a children's show and then you see a pack of cigarettes, that subliminal advertising moment. I have some subliminal musical moments here. Well, the first is that the Mozarts have a sort of squiggle motive. The Marriage of Figaro, yada-da-da-dum, yada-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, that thing, right? And then Cosi fan tutte, that kind of weird flowy thing. Well, so do the Beethoven and the Nielsen. The Nielsen, as you know, begins with it's a pattern. It's just a rhythmic pattern, but little things like that, they really do kind of bind the things together. And whether you recognize the relationships or not isn't important. What matters is that when the Nielsen begins, it's an unfamiliar piece to most people. It's going to sound familiar. And you immediately have that feeling of familiarity. You're on familiar territory. You know where you are. You know what style the composer's working in. That's what I was trying to do here, to just show people that listening to something by somebody you don't know isn't going to be, like terra completamento incognito. It's going to be something that you can immediately grasp. And so from the very first bar, from the Marriage of Figaro, yada-da-da-dum, and the Nielsen is you are. And the Beethoven, when the main theme comes in, remember, da 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 da, and underneath it, you have the strings going like that. So there you go. It's a concert which is really unified by a squiggle. I love little things like that because, these aren't the things that you can analyze and they don't make any sense on paper. But they make a lot of sense in terms of what you hear. You just catch it instantaneously in your hearing, in your auditory canal. And from there on in, the whole thing has this sort of organic feeling of wholeness, which I think is really powerful and interesting. But even beyond that, the Nielsen, as some of you may know, features in the first movement this titanic battle between the snare drum and the rest of the orchestra. The snare drum is trying to stop the orchestra. It has a cadenza where it's going crashity bang, like that. And the orchestra is playing this gorgeous tune, which is going to arrive at one of the most sphincter-clenching climaxes you have ever heard in your life. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I mean, it's incredible. But it's very similar in its rhetorical kind of feel. That is a battle between two opposing forces to the slow movement of the Beethoven Concerto. Right? Where you've got the strings being nasty, in this case, yum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, and the piano being dum, dum, timid, calming, noble. I mean, they're just two very clearly opposed forces. That dialectic of opposites, I think, is a really powerful aspect of the concerto, and it's just as powerful an aspect of the Nielsen Symphony. So there you have it. I think a program that has a wonderful sense of unity, and that will really reveal the Nielsen as, in some ways, the culmination of some of the very, very simple and basic ideas that we encounter in the earlier works. Ta-da! So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me, and give this program a shot. You'll be surprised. I guarantee it, just how well it all goes together. Take care.